For those of you who've been long-time subscribers of my channel, you might remember I posted a few videos back in 2015, live commentaries of a game called Insurgency. It's a hardcore first-person shooter built by New World Interactive, and a while back they announced that they'd be transforming the game, rebuilding it from the ground up, and at the same time improving the already very good shooter that they'd built, adding new features and gameplay opportunities, and that game would be named Insurgency Sandstorm. Well, after a long time, some 11 months or so after their initial announcement, the developers have finally come forward with some more information, and I think there are now plenty of reasons to be excited for this game. Reason number one, the game will feature a full single-player campaign and an option for a 4-person co-op experience. The current game on Steam, footage of which is running in the background right now, is really confined to that co-op multiplayer experience, and having played some 50 or so hours of the game, I can tell you that tense probably doesn't do the environment justice. It's a very on-the-edge combat game. 1 or 2 bullets and you're going to be taken down. With that in a multiplayer environment that makes you feel like every move needs to be thought out and be very deliberate, imagine translating that into a single-player environment with voice acting and characters that you can connect with. That sounds really, really interesting. I mentioned co-op. The campaign will have the option for you to play it with up to 3 other players, so you can enter the missions with your friends and attempt to traverse the story through that way if you want to. And the developers are even considering split screen on the consoles. It's a bit of a throwback. 2 people on the same unit could play this game if they want to, and they're trying to push to integrate that into the multiplayer for the consoles as well. Big ambitions there. Reason number 2, and this is linked into number 1, the campaign will centre around a young, female Kurdish fighter. According to the developers, the story narrative is drawing from real-world events, but they're scaling it down to a more personal level, you could say. The young fighter was imprisoned when she was younger, along with her sister, by radical insurgents, but they both managed to escape the compound where they were being held during bad weather one day. Fast forward to the story that you play out, and the girl has enlisted as a Kurdish freedom fighter, but she breaks away from her group with another girl who was imprisoned when she was young, and you embark on a quest. You're accompanied by 2 other people, an American war veteran and a French civilian with no combat experience. So if you were to play the campaign as a 4-person co-op, these 2 girls and these 2 men would become the characters that you play. If you play solo, the 3 other characters will support you as AI. Don't expect the story to be all Hollywood blockbuster material though. The tone is said to be more akin to an indie film, much more low-key and about the characters that you're playing with, as opposed to the conflict that's going on around you. The story that you'll play through is said to be around 5 hours long, so it's nothing massively drawn out, but the developers have said if there's an interest shown in that story, there may be a possibility of more story content being added to the game after its initial release. This depends on resources, time constraints, and of course, financial budgets. But the fact the team mention it at this early stage seems to suggest they have a lot of confidence in that narrative. Lots of FPS games in the past have passed off their single-player campaigns with not a huge amount of care. There are some good ones out there, but the majority of the time I think they're mainly looking to attract people with their multiplayer experience. But over the last couple of years or so, I think we've seen a shift. If you look at Titanfall 2, for example, that was arguably the best single-player campaign in the FPS genre for a long time. And even Battlefield 1 introduced a war story concept, telling different stories from different characters' point of view. So the fact Insurgency Sandstorm is going to have its own single player is very interesting to me. Reason number 3, the original Insurgency combat formula will remain, but new features are going to be mixed in. I'm assuming some of you watching this video will have played Insurgency at some point in the past, so for you, you'll know what flavour the developers created. For those that didn't play it, the idea is to play very carefully, very methodically, try not to die, that's really important, and to support your team wherever you can. Teamwork and communication is very, very important. If you do die, likely your team is going to be at a major disadvantage. The developers want to continue that feeling, continue that flavour, and put it in their new game, but add stuff in the process and expand the combat that will be available in the final product. So, vehicles are coming, never been in this game before, and also the developers will be adding bullet drop and travel time, similar to what Battlefield does. Now, I'm sure there will be lots more new things available in this version of Insurgency, but that's what they've given away so far. Now, the bullet drop system, that doesn't sound too crazy to me. That just sounds like an iterative step. It makes sense in the world of FPS games. The further your bullet travels, the more it drops. In the new game, you're going to need to learn how to compensate for that, adapt your playstyle, and before you know it, it'll probably just become normal to you. However, the vehicles, that presents a whole new set of questions. To accommodate vehicles, first you need to make sure that players have the necessary tools to combat them, and secondly, the maps you're playing on need to be built in such a way that a vehicle should be able to navigate it properly, whether that be an armoured truck, a pickup with a mounted machine gun on the back, or some massive tank. You have to design the maps in a certain way so those vehicles can actually affect the gameplay in certain areas. In my head, that tells me the maps in Insurgency Sandstorm are likely to be different to the ones we have in Insurgency right now, and designed to allow vehicles and infantry to coexist alongside each other, and that for Insurgency is quite a big change. Reason number 4, the game is built on the Unreal Engine. Now, this actually links into what I was just saying about the map design. The developers have decided with Sandstorm to make use of the Unreal Engine 4. The old game is built on the Source engine. They've said that with this change they'll be able to produce larger environments and then introduce new game modes that make use of that. Their focus will always remain towards close quarters combat, but with the new engine, their vision for something different won't be completely restricted. That's not mentioning the fact either that the Unreal Engine is far more graphically adept than the Source engine is, which the developers have said was a blockade for even more people playing the game. It sold 3 million copies on Steam, which is quite a feat, but with something that looks more visually impressive, they think they'll be able to capture more gamers with this release. Oh, and the game is coming to the Xbox One and the PS4 as well. That's sure to tap into a new market. Reason number 5 to be excited about Insurgency Sandstorm, there will be free DLC and updates for this game. The developers are working hard to make sure they've got maps ready for the launch. They're aiming for 10 maps to be ready, but they're still a long way away from having the product ready to release. The free updates and content follow in the vein in which the developers operated for the current Insurgency game on Steam. They kept the community well fed with regular updates and activating the Steam Workshop for the title, which allowed the community to get involved and add new weapons, different skins, new cosmetic items, and even create maps for the game. They want to keep that going on with Sandstorm. And finally, reason number 6, the game is likely to hit the alpha stage later on in 2017. In the words of the developers, we're looking at doing a closed alpha on PC by the end of this year, and then next year releasing the full game. Insurgency Sandstorm is shaping up to be a full FPS game release, expanding on what the developers created with the Source engine game, but looking to tap into new markets with the additions of a single-player campaign, more co-op play, and extended gameplay features like vehicles and larger environments. I will be following the progress of this game as we find out more information, and I'll be posting videos up here to deliver it to you guys. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments on Insurgency Sandstorm, and while you're down there, drop me a like as well. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.